O'clock, and it's the time on our schedule for a fair workshop to get an update from our fair director, Darcy. Commissioner Bradshaw and Commissioner McDonald are present. Commissioner Conley is on a jail inspection. We'll hope he is going to get the timer here soon. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Darcy.
Hello, good morning, Commissioners. Darcy Smith for the record. These are just talking points that I had to go with the agenda. This is just our annual update where I provide you all the good, bad, and the ugly and awesomeness about the fairgrounds. Okay. And of course, feel free to stop me or ask me questions if I'm going too fast. First item on the agenda is the review and update regarding the 2021 fairgrounds events and rental. I broke it down by building use.
Okay.
A lot of people aren't aware that all of the buildings are in use year round. A majority of them are for storage. The cattle barn is again being rented to Sandpoint Marine and Motorsports for their motorsports winter storage. And then nothing fancy or new about that one. We have been working on the Holly Barn. It has been used for storage in the past. However, upgrades have been made. Gas lines have been brought over. Thankfully, between a sponsorship.
So Commissioner Conley's joined us. He's back from the jail. They didn't keep you.
Yeah, I was afraid that.
I hear the food's better.
Hey, Darcy.
Hello,
You really
sir.
just started, so
I just started. That's
just went over the cattle barn and the fact that once again this year. Sandpoint-
Gotcha. Right there.
just talking points are what I printed out for you so that you have them. Yeah, so just to recap, the cattle barn is still being used for storage from, excuse me, Sandpoint Marine and Motorsports. The Holly Barn, we are improving it so that we can use it for year-round usage as well as rental. So gas lines have been brought over thanks to some sponsorships and partnerships between Avista Utilities and Woods Crushing and Hauling. That was actually able to be done before snowfall. So the gas lines are in. We have heater installation. So prior to me coming on board in 2018, there was a purchase of 2 commercial heaters. They were on the grounds. Unfortunately, we aren't able to find out what they were intended to be used for, but they are now being used in the Holly Barn. They have been installed. Hopefully they will be up and running this week. Unfortunately, due to the weather, just about every single industry related to construction, heating, plumbing, electricity, they are busy. So we're kind of on the back burner since we don't need heat in that building at the moment. So they're up, they're installed. They just need to be connected to the gas lines.
What's the plan used for that?
Year-round rentals. So for wintertime, a majority of the work is being done by Woods Crushing and Hauling for sponsorships and whatnot, but they are the intended user that want to use this building in the wintertime for their wrestling program. They currently use the south wing of the main exhibit building, and they have maxed out capacity, and they still have more people signing up. They've gone to the point where they have multiple sessions, so that building would be larger, would allow us more rent.
And they think they, as I recall, when they were talking about it, that they'd be able to leave the mats out as opposed to having to roll them back up.
Yep.
And do all that every night.
Yep. But they only use it like winter, springtime. So what would be great for us, the benefit of doing this work, we would be able to rent that building out for events as opposed to the main exhibit building, which is the only other heated building available for rent. So there are smaller events.
Even the gate exhibit building, if it's not a big event,
It's too big.
Which one is the Holly Barn?
The Holly Barn is the closest one to the horse stalls.
okay. One of the where the goats and sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's the approximate square footage of that building as far as like?
I don't know that.
No, that's all right.
I can get it for you.
I just tried to see if I could scout. Yeah.
Well, you did. I'll get it for you.
How do you, how do we set rents and stuff for something like that?
So we have fee schedules that are set by the Fair Board. As far as rentals for events, rentals for sporting events, rentals for nonprofits, there's some different rates there. They give me the autonomy to rent to whomever. I get to control that portion. However, the actual rates are reviewed annually and either approved, adjusted. Some are lowered, some are higher, just depending on what it is. I do research each year and call other events, ask for their, I say events, other facilities, and ask for their fee schedules just for comparison. We try to stay competitive, but we also try to stay lower. So that's about the heater installation. Foundation repair, there's some concrete work that needs to be done on the Holly Barn during the rainy season. The rain leaks into the building. So we've got some small concrete repair and some little things to do around the outside to prevent further leaks. The next item on that was restoration of the facilities. The repairs and upgrades to this building are truly essential to allowing us to rent the building for year-round event usage. Found a typo there. In doing so, in wanting to do this, we would need to install or build restrooms for this building. Our indoor arena has restrooms, main exhibit building has restrooms, food booths have restrooms. All the other buildings do not have restrooms. This item has been put on the back burner for now because the current estimate, just a ballpark estimate that we were able to get, it wasn't official. We didn't go out for bids or anything. Just so that we could, know what's in the game, is about 80 grand. That is not in our budget for this year. So we are going to, when they threw that number out at the Fair Board meeting, everyone were like, there were some gasps. So that is a project we will look for and see if we can get sponsorships and partnerships for. I'll even look into possibly grants for it. That kind of wraps up the Holly Barn, unless you guys have any questions on that one.
Yeah, I know. I think you missed it, Jeff. You hadn't come in yet, but pretty much all the buildings that can be rented are maxed out.
Yes. Yes. We started this past year when COVID hit, a lot of facilities closed. And that's when pickleball, actually, the group came to us wanting to use our facilities. And that's when we started stacking events. So in the past, historically, they would only allow one user per day, whether it was for a couple hours or all day. Now we're trying to help them out. It can get a little busy, but we'll have pickleball in the morning, pickleball in the afternoon, cornhole in the afternoon, meetings in the evening. I mean, so we're trying to use the building as best we can, but we've now outgrown it. So, which is a good problem to have.
This pickleball thing is killing me. I didn't even know about it until I heard it at Fair Board.
It's very popular. It's very
You hit
popular.
a pickle and make it do anything.
Well, you use the pickle to hit the ball.
Oh, you use the pickle.
Oh, my goodness.
But it's got a huge following.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're actually looking to create some other pickleball courts somewhere in Sandpoint.
There'll be a tournament this month on the weekend, and they would prefer more dates if I had them available for them. But unfortunately, a lot of groups are annual events or they book a year in advance. So, okie dokie. Rapid Barn, that building is still being used for storage. That building is not winterized and cannot be used in winter months. The Swine Barn, this building is still being used for fairground storage as well as storage for other county vehicles. That one also is not winterized, so it cannot be utilized in winter months other than storage, but it seems to help out, the assessor's office and other departments. The indoor arena is still being used for soccer. We have a multi-year lease with them, with Sandpoint Strikers for the indoor arena. They currently already have their turf laid down in the indoor arena. That building is actually, they've got high use. It's used from Sunday to Friday, sometimes on Saturdays, but every single week. And it's multiple age levels all the way up to adult league. So there is quite a bit of foot traffic in through there. That's it on page 1.
So do we kind of keep track of like income versus, like building, or is it just kind of a one big gob of?
I can send you that budget.
Okay. I mean, per building, because I'm sure that thing's pretty costly to heat, right?
They pay their heat.
And how do we track that?
So that's on a separate meter. So we pay it and then I send them the bill and then they reimburse us. Main exhibit building. So we've kind of gone over this a little bit, but just to recap, it's being used for multiple sporting groups throughout the winter months. We do have a few events during the winter months that will take place on weekends. Otherwise, every single day, here's just a list of some of the sports. We have wrestling, pickleball, cornhole, disc golf, and volleyball currently using that. Some of the bigger events like the ski swap, things like that, they canceled this year due to COVID. They're already on the calendar for the following year, so that's not a concern. But we understand and we're working with groups that are having to cancel for those needs. So we're not just taking their deposit like we normally would do if someone canceled that close to their event, and we're carrying it over to the next year. So there is some loss of revenue as far as the bigger events, but we are recouping it because of sports. So, okay, any questions on that one? Okay, the food booths. So the Fair Board has been talking about upgrades to the cafe. Specifically cabinets and countertops, a purchase and installation for upgrades to the kitchen prep area to make the building rentable during non-fair usage. That building sits vacant the majority of the year. The end rooms, I guess I could say, are used for storage. Part of it is for 4-H, part of it is for us. And so we're trying to make sense of our buildings and make them profitable, make them usable. We have, when I came on board again, there was some commercial kitchen equipment that had been purchased to be placed into that cafe. So we installed that. However, we haven't really been able to rent it. We have to shine a turd,
Yes.
Literally. It's been dilapidated for too long, unfortunately. Plywood counters. It does, unfortunately. So we're bringing it up so that way we can rent it to those who do canning from home, or, like a commercial kitchen you want to go in and rent, or even for bigger events. When we have, unfortunately, when the fairgrounds is utilized by fire camps, they're not able to use that kitchen because of its current state. So if we're able to get that cleaned up, we would be able to allow them to use that as well. So we are currently been looking into a purchase and installation the Fair Board approved to put cabinets and countertops. With that being said, all of the work would be done other than installation of counters. We would do the work. So Chris and Cole on staff would remove all the plywood type cabinets and shelving that's in there. None of it's salvageable. It really isn't. And then it would require painting. The floor would need to be re-epoxied, as well as insulation and heating would be needed to put in there. So this will be phased in as funds are available, but there's hopes that by next August, it'll be up and functional. So hopes there. That's it for my buildings updates, unless you guys have any other questions on those.
So then it's winterized or something? Every year you winterize it, drain it.
Now, that whole building for the food booths, the end one, which is 4-H, that one is fully functional, clean. They've got equipment in there and they manage it themselves. They get the hoods cleaned every year. I mean, and we turn all the gas off and everything for them. But the others, the other 3 rooms, those need some help. So once we start recouping funds and making money, then we'll turn that money into the next one, and then it'll trickle down to the next one. So eventually the whole building will be nice and functional again. Multi-year project. Any questions on those, guys? Okay. Next item I have on here, just to give you guys an update, is the Fair Board members. Update on their terms and their attendance. So everyone we have the 7-member board. Everyone is still current on their terms. We have no expirations this year. We will have 1, 2, 3 expiring next year. So that will go out traditionally. We'll put advertisements in the newspaper. If those members would like to seek reappointment, I will request letters from them, but we're a year away from that. And Jeff, you've got it. Actually, I think you're all looking at it. Their names are there. Their terms are in the middle column. And then on the right-hand side, it's their attendance. Out of 11 meetings, you'll see the attendance, 9 meetings met, 10. There's one, Bruce Hollett. He was there for 7 meetings. He's a firefighter. So
He's the newest, one of the newest board members.
Yeah, him and Leah are the newest ones on the board. He'll try to Zoom in if he has cell phone service, but unfortunately, sometimes he doesn't. So that's why. Yes. So that's kind of an update on the Fair Board members. Any questions on any of them?
Well, so does he meet the qualifications to continue to serve, or is he right on the edge?
He's right on the edge. But yeah.
And the Fair Board now is really well functioning.
They really are. They work well. We have members that they definitely bring different things to the board. He's a good 4-H liaison, and he does help out during fair and during other events, Halloween, such. So, but yeah, they all work well together too. I don't have any issues with those guys.
That's great.
I actually really like it.
I mean, it's impressive, the functionality now as opposed to what it was before.
Functioning is good.
Functioning is good. Update on the rodeo. And these I may be reiterating when I do my monthly updates to you guys, but it's good to kind of just sit here annually and just dig into it all. The 2021 rodeo went really well. We sold out of tickets both nights. We had approximately 2,500 people both nights between sold tickets as well as sponsored tickets. The rodeo has recently requested, the rodeo committee recently requested from the Fair Board that they change the name from Bonner County Rodeo to the Sandpoint Rodeo. And it was for a couple of reasons. All PRCA rodeos are listed as their city name. So it was confusing to contestants, we're Bonner County Rodeo, but everything's listed as Sandpoint, Idaho. So they weren't putting the connection. And there was a huge confusion between Bonner's Ferry. They thought it was up there and not in Sandpoint. So that was, those are the 2 reasons, the one, the name, and then the 2 for Bonner's Ferry. So the rodeo, it will remain the Bonner County Rodeo. So all of our stuff where it's the Bonner County Fair and Rodeo will stay the same. However, any advertising with the PRCA, excuse me. I was the cutest little sneeze. I'm sorry.
Pretty good.
Tried not to scream. But they're advertising everything that they list as through PRCA, through WPRA, will be listed as the Sandpoint Rodeo. That takes effect this year, 2022. The rodeo did receive approval from the Fair Board to purchase some new pens and chutes that were installed in 2021, which most of you are already probably aware of and probably even saw if you attended some of the events in the outdoor arena this past year. There are a few adjustments that need to be made to prevent injuries to staff and to animals. With that being said, there's a mobile chute that is being purchased, as well as a couple, some longer panels. we are having an issue where when a bull is being brought back in, the gate that swings in, there's literally enough room for him to stand. But those gate panels, there's big wide gaps. So if a horn were to come in there, if a hoof were to come in there, he had no room to go. So we're extending that so that way for safety issues. So there's a few modifications and those will take place hopefully in this spring. It just depends on the weather, the dirt, if it's solid enough to do that. That we're always battling that out there. Okay, we're moving along quickly. So I want to do a review for our 21 fair and events. We'll start off with the fair. Attendance was up from 2020. And the way that we gauge that with the fact that this is it's a free attendance, there's no gate. We have to gauge that off of parking. And so the funds that we collect from parking were up from 2020. And then again, the parking fundraiser brings in, it was just shy of $14,000 this year. And just to reiterate this here, that is 100% given back to the kiddos. So the students that volunteer at the gates throughout the week of fair, 50% of those funds go straight back to those programs. We write a check to the high school and they give it to those programs. The other 50% goes 100% back into scholarships for the kids under the fairgrounds, the John Porter Memorial Scholarship. So we don't keep any of that. Let's see.
That's that scholarship's given here in Sandpoint.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just Sandpoint, it's Clark Fork, Priest River, homeschool, as well as continuing education. This past year, we didn't have anyone apply from, and I don't know if this was, and I spoke with the counselors, we don't know if it was due to COVID. There weren't regular meetings regarding scholarships at those schools. So we're really going to try and push it this year to get more applications in. But we gave 4 away last year they were $1,750 a piece. So they're pretty big scholarships that are going out. Okay. Where am I? So again, rodeo sold out. Our bull riding sold out. And of course, our demolition derby sold out. That one sells out every single year. The concert did really well. We were able to get a sponsor that actually covered the fee for the band. So aside from our regular event expenses, we made a pretty big profit off of that. I'll go over that in a minute. The exhibit entries were up again this year, and we're talking about static exhibit entries as well as livestock exhibit entries. The barns were full. We did have some issues with, and unfortunately, it's a hard battle when there's any kind of health issue out there brewing with livestock. A year ago, it was rabbits. Years ago, it was, birds, the bird flus. And so, yes, we had pig lice a few years ago. So we were down a little bit on numbers with our goats because there were some health issues with goats. However, it was still full and great presentations by those kiddos. Our cases were actually full. So we have to look into the potential of acquiring some new cases for the main exhibit building. Let's see here. Pardon me? I did pass that, didn't I? Okay, I don't know how many of you guys frequent the food court during fair, but if you may have noticed, it's been getting bigger and bigger each year. So a few years ago, we installed more pedestals for power. So that way it really designed a food court between the main exhibit building and then through the food booth. So it makes like a really big, nice horseshoe. They have all the power and water needs. We try our best to do a survey from them to let us know how much they make. They don't always get back to us because we don't charge a percentage. We charge a flat rate for them to be there. And we charge it's low enough so that way we can have the local guys compete with the bigger companies that are coming up from Spokane or somewhere else in Washington. With that being said, between our food booths, their average gross that they were each bringing in based off of the numbers that I got was between the lowest was 2,000, highest was 10,000. So the average was $6,000 that they were taking home just from our 4-day fair. So they're loving it. We've got people that are already wanting to be here for next year. So for this coming year.
It's shocking how much fair food is a draw for people.
Yeah, and it's huge. And they're like, "Do you have Chinese food? Do you have this? Do you have?" I know
It's a
corn
good
dogs.
variety.
So we try our best to, and we actually go and reach out to all of our local food companies. And I say companies, not just restaurants, but also just the food truck, et cetera. And they love it because I can get in there because it's first come, first serve. We don't hold any building for anybody. We don't reserve it. So that's been a success. And again, we try to bring as much business for our local community. We're trying to build that relationship with them. We will give gift certificates to our volunteers and our superintendents and our judges to not only some of our sponsors, but other local companies, whether it's ice cream, coffee, restaurants. We're trying to help build up them, especially the last couple of years. It's been hard for them due to COVID, the C word. But all in all, fair went really well. I attended 2 different conventions this fall, and we have a pretty solid lineup for our entertainment this year, which will be some of them will be the same, and some of them will be a little new. So,
You have a guess on an estimate on the difference in attendance between 2021 and 2020?
I have that number at the office. It's
What percentage of increase?
I want to say it was a 6% increase. It was a 5 or 6%. I'd have to pull. I'm sorry, I didn't put that in here. I can get
There's a lot
that.
of people though. That's not like a couple times I was there.
It's very busy. A lot of our contests went really, really well. We'll bring those back. It is hard though, also with attendance to, we have a lot of families that will stay on site because of their livestock. And so when they come in, we don't know if there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 of them. I mean, so that can be difficult. So we have to go guesstimate off of the parking. Percentage on attendance. I will get that to you. Okay. Any questions on fair? We did continue, I didn't put this in here, but we did continue to carry over what we did the year prior when in 2020, when COVID really hit. We brought in extra wash stations as well as installed hand sanitizer, additional ones in all the buildings. And then we brought out freestanding hand sanitizer units. And then to the petting zoo, we brought in there's sanitation mats that you walk over. So that way, when you go in and when you come out, you're not tracking any bacteria in or out of those. And we're going to actually expand that to the other barns this year. It worked out really well. Okie dokie, moving forward, next item. So we do hold, this was our 3rd Halloween event that we had this year, and it went amazing. I wrote 2nd year, but it was actually our 3rd year. We have a lot of volunteers. Fair Board helps with this one. We get a lot of donations that will allow us to purchase the candy, purchase popcorn, purchase, all the goodies for the kiddos. So you guys should come to this. It's pretty rad.
Sounds like it.
It is pretty rad. We do a haunted maze for the kiddos. And so it turns out great. The fairgrounds was built for the community use. So it's nice to provide a nice, safe, dry place for the kiddos to go on Halloween. So there's that one. Christmas fair. I know Dan was there. Did you guys go?
No.
It was nutty.
Yeah, I'm kind of a Grinch, as you will know.
Yeah, no, I couldn't believe it coming into the parking lot. I was like, oh my God, this looks like fair parking.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
They did really well this year.
Yeah, and good vendors.
Good vendors, great people. They did really, really well. So there's things that we want to improve on and suggest that maybe have a section for a spouse to hang out while the other spouse goes and shops.
Was walking around, here's all these guys, we're all kind of just like leaning up against the wall while the girls were shopping, and they're like, yeah, we need like a men's lounge or something.
So we might be working on that for you guys.
Get Black Sheep to rent a booth, and then the guys have a place to hang.
Yes, we'll do that.
Or kill Cabela's. Yeah. Laser tag.
We can work on that. We're open to improvement. So again, it was full. We actually have a waiting list every single year for this. So that went really well.
I was really impressed by the booths. A lot of really good quality items. And a lot of things.
It's all local. We stopped doing commercial last year, which did upset some people, but it is purely a craft fair. So that way we're supporting our local artisans on that. I forgot to mention with the Halloween event, we have ponies that come for pony rides during the fair. And I reached out to them and they were able to, we got a sponsor to cover their costs and they were able to provide free pony rides for kids. And the ponies even dressed up in costume. There was a firefighter and I think there was a unicorn. Yeah. So that was pretty fun. Okay. Next item on here is the Idpr grant application for the RV grant.
Can I back up to the fair? Because I guess I do have a question.
Absolutely. You can do what you want.
Remember the tree fair stuff?
Uh-huh.
The kid, do we still do that? Yeah.
So we have in the last couple of years because of COVID.
Yeah.
And it's been really sad. The kids miss it and the teachers miss it, but
That's a great event.
it was too risky
Yeah. I
to
get
pull
it.
that off.
But we want to get back. to
Oh
it.
yeah. And there's been talk amongst the fair board to try to maybe even put it in the fall as opposed to the spring. It would work with schedules. I know. Well,
Pre-fair if it's in the fall.
it'd be
Let's
youth
just-
fair. I don't know. We would probably name it something different, but
It's fair.
yeah.
Oh, that's a great event. I went out to it a couple times. I was just amazed.
And they really get a lot of education. So I'll just stay for the record. Have you been to a pre-fair or are you familiar with it? So pre-fair, Rhonda Livingston had this great idea and it was brought to fruition when the school district will bus in kiddos for a couple hours. And there's several groups that will come through, hundreds of kiddos. They submit prior to exhibits, just like they would at fair. A lot of them are coloring, poems, some are science projects, and we put them all on display in the main exhibit building. But in addition to that, we bring in, I think we had, it was either 19 or 20 different stations that they get to visit. Water and soil conservation. We brought in like North 40, co-op, the tractor, people, the sheep sharing. I mean, just as a few.
Wildlife.
Forest Service, wildlife, I mean, fish and game. So they got to really learn the agricultural side of the county, sustainability. I mean, it's so educational for these kiddos because a lot of them don't live on farms. They're not familiar with any of this. And so, yeah, it's huge for education for them. So
Plus it gets them involved in 4-H too. It's a big lead in for 4-H, which I think is a great thing for.
And we try to do like little fun games with them if they find something or if they're caught acting good or behaving well, or if they're asking great questions, they'll get like either little tickets or whatever. If they come back during the fair and bring those to the office, they'll usually get some kind of goodie. So it's an incentive to bring them back to the fair too.
They are excited.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions?
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's
Backwards.
okay. So wrong one. The IDPR grant application update. So just kind of give you a little background. So in 2020, following approval from you guys, we applied for the IDPR RV grant funds and were awarded $225,900 for the repairs to the existing fairgrounds campground road system. It was pretty dilapidated. A lot of these trailers and motorhomes are getting bigger and bigger, and some of them are just, they're enormous. And when you see this huge several $100,000 motorhome going like this, when it's going down the road, we saw the need for safety alone. And they agreed when we sent in videos and photographs, et cetera. So that went really well. The current campground at the fairgrounds has 33 spaces. It does bring in quite a bit of revenue throughout the year. I actually wrote a little cheat number for me. So the 2019-2020 season, that campground brought in just shy of $53,000 for revenue for us. And in the 2020-2021 season, it brought in over $63,000. So it was a $10,000, $11,000 jump just in that. We are extremely busy during our peak season, summer seasons.
I'm shocked how many people actually are out there right now.
Yeah.
In the winter.
And if we were able to have more, it would be full. But so right now we have 6 spaces that are people are able to use during the winter. They have a spot for their trailer, and then they have the space next to them for parking. They have to maintain shoveling and whatnot, but we plow as much as we can. We have to use the other sites to push the snow to. So we're not able to push it anywhere else. But we're working with Schweitzer this year. So 4 of those campsites are employees of Schweitzer's. So we'll probably do the same next year if it works out well. One of them is a county employee that's in there right now, and another one is unfortunately a local guy he's looking for housing still. So, and that's typically the clientele that we have in there, is people that are looking for housing.
So then we have a certain amount of permanent slots, and then we want to keep it open or partially open because events, right?
Exactly. But in the winter time, it's closed. Right. And those 6 spaces are only for the winter season.
Nice.
So it runs from October 15th to April 15th. April 16th, they have to make other accommodations. They have to go bye-bye.
And it goes back into the online.
Thing. We're part of the
like we do with Garfield Bay.
Same system, which works out really, really good. Really, really well. And then we're able to rent the entire facility a lot of times for events. Motorcycle groups will come through, vintage trailer groups will come through. There's the regattas, there's soccer tournaments. I mean, these are just a few, but they will rent other facilities at the fairgrounds, but then they'll rent that entire campground and then also dry camping. So we are exceeding the capacity of the 33 spaces. Not to mention when we do that, we block out the entire campground, then people that are recreating coming through, we are only one of 2 campgrounds within Sandpoint city limits. City Beach is the other one. And there's only on one of, I don't even know how many are down there. Like, I've heard rumors it's going away, but
I thought they were going to move Trinity over there.
I thought so too. So if that's the case too, then we're going to, if they eliminate theirs, we will be the only one within Sandpoint city limits, campground, public campground.
The demand is going to go up, not down.
Yeah, it's huge.
When I bought mine, that one weekend, they sold 150 RVs.
Oh my gosh. I believe it. I believe it. And we do have Wi-Fi available at the campground. We have a lot of people when they travel through during the summer and peak seasons, they work from home. So that's one of their things. They try to travel and work. And so we're able to accommodate that.
I was out dumping my black tank one time and he was staying there.
Mm-hmm.
He was coming out dumping his tank. He was running his business out of it.
Yeah. There's some neat people that come through, and they're regulars. They come back every year. So another thing that we need to provide that has really prompted for us to do this grant application and continue it is these these spaces, when it was built, accommodated the size of these rigs. There are zero, and I don't know why, there are zero pull-through spaces in these.
Pull-throughs are the most desirable space in any RV park.
They're the most desirable, but they're also utilized a lot for handicap folks. So
They're all built ADA
these are all proper widths, proper road depths and whatnot, but there is the need for more. So I work with IDPR. I call the grant specialist down in Coeur d'Alene, Tiffany, and I called her and spoke with her multiple times in December. I just started. Thought I had a timeline. I may not have printed it. There are applications online, so I can't like print it and bring it in. It will be technically our phase 2 of this project. Phase 1 was the paving, and this was all brought up before was that 2020 for the 2021 or 2019 for 2020. Phase 2 would be to construct additional campsites and a road. This engineering work was already done when we did the road reconstruction. So that way we had a full plan to present to IDPR. However, because we skipped a year, due to COVID, we had a lot of canceled events. So we lost revenue, and there wasn't a required match, but that's something that will help you get your grants. And so we chose not to submit an application that year. After speaking with Tiffany with the IDPR, we are going to present these next. There would be 4 phases in total, one being the road reconstruction. We're going to consider the road reconstruction. It was its own project, and then we're going to start new with these last 3 phases. So this next one technically would start as phase 1 for the campground expansion, if approved and if allowed to apply. So I did start the process on there. The engineer work that was already done previously with the mapping out, J.A. Sewell and Associates, we already have a majority of that, which is fantastic. We've already talked with the city in regards to what the requirements would be for water lines, fire hydrants, the width of the road for it, because once you put in a fire hydrant, the roads need to be in a campground 20 feet wide instead of 16 feet wide. So we'll make sure that that's all up and up on that. So I'll bring that request formally to you guys later this month. I've already contacted your guys' staff. Will be on a future agenda once it's completed. That would construct, just so you guys know, that would construct the rough in the road. It would rough in the campsites. It would have electrical, water. They would not have sewer. The ground's it's too flat without having to put pumps in. We can't have it gravity fed right there. Phase 3, which would be the following year, it would be to pave and install, not install, but plant trees and shrubs and whatnot around there. And then phase 4, the final phase would be to install a bathhouse, shower, just like the other one. That's what they call them, bathhouse.
That's not that. It's hundreds of a different thought.
We're not going to go there. But so IDPR now requires a 5% match for funding. All of the matching funds would come from and be paid 100% by the Bonner County Fairgrounds. So preliminary numbers we were looking at, I'm still waiting for them to come through from J.A. Sewell and Associates, would be between $350,000 and $500,000. And that is and speaking with Tiffany, that is one of the highest funded grant programs that they have. And it's totally within the norm. People ask anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million for their projects. So
just to be that guy.
It
would be nice for the other 2 commissioners that don't have an idea of what this looks like in full build. We've never seen that. We've seen
Just
that.
some concept.
I brought them
We've seen the
before.
original
Um,
phase one. I mean, when we got that, when we
Well, we
approved
saw
it.
it when you came in for the
Mhm.
2020 approval for the grant, you brought in the drawings of the.
I did, and I can forward those to you guys
Really?
again.
Yeah.
So I can draw you a
No,
rudimentary one real
that's all
quick.
right. Just forward me the stuff.
It'll be, just so that you know, location wise, it'll be on the south end of the current fairgrounds occupied parcel. So and closer to Samuelson Road. It's in the back behind that,
Because
Behind
I
the
think
horse barns.
obviously
Behind the horse, like
everything's a little sensitive compared to what it was in 20. So it's a good idea that we have a
This-
discussion.
this land that we're proposing this to be on is used currently for parking of trailers during
Right.
fair. It's used for
But
parking
it's
during
the-
all of our events.
It's the bigger picture.
True, but I'm just letting you know where, like, I'm trying to explain
Yeah.
where. Okay,
I can visualize it. I think
I'll resend those to you. And they should be in that grant application, but I'll resend all those to you.
First, do you remember the date that you had the grant, that the grant application was?
Would that be?
It would have been in January, yes, because it's,
Would that be south of the warm-up area off the end of the arena?
here's the road that goes, here's Horse Barns,
Right,
Pig Barn.
right,
Here's Samuelson Road over here.
right,
Here's the sheriff's office.
right,
And we're gonna draw this imaginary line right here. There's a fence that goes to like here,
right.
this part right here.
Okay.
That's what we're gonna use.
Yeah, once you get them the concept drawing again.
Uh-huh. I can forward that to you. In fact, I'll do it before I leave because I can do it from my phone. Any other questions?
No,
Yeah, if you know where the new road's gonna go, figure out where you're gonna need,
I'm sure they've got that.
Any-
If they
any
engineered it,
infrastructure-
Yeah, it's in the drawing.
and
It's in
put a
the-
conduit in where the road's gonna be, anywhere you're gonna have. to
They've got
cross
all
it,
that. in the
yeah,
engineering.
Yeah, it's in there. We're going
Rather
to
than
try.
pushing under the road.
Oh my gosh, right. Well, when we put the gas lines in for the Holly Barn, we were able to bore underneath the existing road too. So that was nice to know people. Okay, any other questions on that one though? Awesome. Okay. Next one is the review update for the potential ice arena. I haven't, since the last agreement, I haven't had really any discussion or with, I'll just say Robert Pierce, Dr. Robert Pierce, because he was the main one that was contacting me. I gave you guys a full breakdown of the timeline from this. So in 2019, I was contacted by Tom Russell and Grady Weiss to discuss the potential of an ice rink or arena to be placed on the Bonner County Fairgrounds. The location for this was initially proposed to be directly behind the playground that's out there on the corner. Wasn't quite the ideal location. It would bottleneck any traffic. It would occupy the existing parking lot. So that would limit what we'd be able to utilize if we were having an event. I mean, it just multiple issues there. So between the months of October and November of 2019, Grady Weiss provided information and other fairgrounds regarding other fairgrounds that have ice rinks on their arenas. In November of 2019, when I was at our annual fair conventions, I did some research about the ice rinks mainly by seeking out those fairs that had those facilities on their grounds. And it was revealed to me that without 100% funding up front, or without having secure sponsors for long term, those ice rinks weren't completed due to just lack of funding.
Construction.
But when they were 100% funded, they were fantastic facilities, revenue generating, and just great use for the communities. In 2020, in February, following a discussion and information provided to the Fair Board by Grady Weiss, the Fair Board approved that the ice rink project move forward with the development of like a footprint with CAD mapping, fundraising, overall providing more information to the Fair Board and providing all communication to me and to Dan. In December of 2020, the county GIS provided drawings for some configuration of the arena.
There's about 6 different options.
Yeah. On the proposed parcel that's adjacent to the Juvenile Detention Center and the Bonner County Fairgrounds, all which are Bonner County properties. 2021, March of 2021, there was a public workshop held with myself, the commissioners, and the members of the Ice Arena project that was here in the commissioners meeting room. That's where Dr. Pierce provided a PowerPoint presentation and there was QA held between the commissioners and the Ice Arena members. So then between the months of May to September, communications via email occurred between Dr. Pierce, myself, Scott Bauer, regarding a mutually acceptable MOU agreement for the ice arena to be constructed on county property. And then in October of 2021, the final draft was approved by legal and sent to the commissioners to be approved at their regular scheduled business meeting. Now, this agreement approves that the Sandpoint Community Center Corporation, that's their name, big long one, to enter into a lease agreement with Bonner County to construct an ice arena on that parcel, which is owned and still owned by Bonner County. The ice arena would be utilized as a community center that in the agreement would be providing activities included but not limited to after school youth programs, family skating, youth sports programs, youth and adult figure skating and hockey programs, youth and adult tournaments, ice shows, community events, and educational programs. Now, during the non-ice season, the Bonner County Fairgrounds would be able to utilize the building during fair and rodeo season for various activities, concerts, community events, shows, parties, educational programs. The construction costs of the building would be 100% at the expense of the Sandpoint Community Center Corporation. The lease would not be allowed to be sublet. And the approval of the agreement allowed the Sandpoint Community Center Corporation for the construction and use for that ice arena on that parcel number. I can read it for the record if you want me to. But I think we know where it is.
So it's construction and maintenance and operation.
That's
what
all.
it reads.
Yep.
So I think there was a little bit of confusion when I talked to a couple of the people that are on that. Eric Paul, for one, thought that they were going to be controlling leasing it out to somebody else, and I don't know that I saw that in the agreement. Is it directly spoken to in the agreement?
Scott rewrote from what I originally wrote. I wrote an MOU,
right?
But they are in charge of everything as far as that building, as far as costs go.
Right, but I'm talking about leasing it because
they are not allowed to sublease.
It says between May and September, which is the off season.
It says use.
Yeah.
And that's.
And it says the fairgrounds can use it for events.
That's when we get to utilize it.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of misunderstanding. Like people were saying, I did see that we gave the property away. No, you guys obviously know that.
There's a mistake in the original writing of the MOU. I don't remember the conversation we had. Scott said, I'm going to put that $1 a year in as a placeholder until we negotiate the percentage.
And he didn't change it, yeah.
And it unfortunately went through without that being changed, even though I notified him that we've settled on 5% of the all tickets sold for every event, which would generate quite a bit of revenue for the fair.
It would.
We're gonna amend that. I've got Bill looking at it right now, bring forward to amend it. And I also told him we want to make sure we clarify the language in the use for the fairgrounds too.
Is there any estimation of what it would generate for revenue for the 5%?
I think at one point we were looking at, we were just trying to guess because we didn't know what the usage would be. I mean, they believe that there's gonna be 500 to 600 kids using it, but somewhere around 50 to 80 grand a year.
And they were guesstimating that.
Not including the rent.
Yeah.
Where you get your rent down. That's just tickets.
And they're gauging that also based off of like the usage from Coeur d'Alene. Because a lot of these,
And the call.
Mm-hmm.
The call's got a really successful ice rink at the fairgrounds. It's been fairly dynamic.
Is it on there somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, part of the due diligence with the fair board, and Rob brought in a bunch of examples of different counties that have them on their fairgrounds. And the reason on the fairgrounds is because you had to go out and buy the land, especially nowadays.
Right.
You'd never be able to build it.
And that was, I guess, one of their biggest issues. And that's what Dr. Pierce was bringing up, that they've got sponsorships or donors that want to do this. One of my concerns from the get-go is I knew like Moscow has a rink and it's dilapidated. And I've spoken with him several times. My concern, I wanted to make sure that it was in here, that they had all their funding up front and that they couldn't have a mortgage. And that's
Right,
in
they're
there.
gonna- Yeah, in fact, that's one of the things. It's got to be 100% funded, and they won't be taking out loans or any kind of loans to build or operate it.
Because in the
So then
event,
you get the final say is when they can go.
Mhm.
Like say, they have to bring in estimates that we think that are actually doable, and then we have to show that they have the funds.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we say, yeah, go ahead, not, oh, we'll raise the funds as we go.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Well, I
No,
mean,
that was a
this is-
discussion.
But yeah,
I'm asking these questions because this is the stuff I've heard.
Sure.
You know, it's kind of like,
and no one's called me to
And really,
ask me
the whole thing with
anything.
the land, the issue was that, because I had a conversation with Rob as well. I said, listen, you're never going to get a grant because you don't have a location.
right.
No one's going to grant you any money. There's a vast array of grant resources for this. But it's like building a house. You can't get construction loan unless you own the property.
Yeah.
You don't have
And
to own the property.
They're funny that way.
Pardon?
They're funny that way.
Yeah, they're kind of funny that way.
the campground that we're proposing to build would actually be right next to it. So if they were to bring in tournaments, they would utilize that. So that would also be more revenue for us to bring in.
So how many other sites did we look at? Like, I know that you said that they proposed originally to be over there by the playground.
We're looking at-
Seems like some of it would fit better closer if you're gonna utilize it, unless it's a separate utilization, you know what I mean? As far as, it seems like it would be better somewhere inside the already used area. There's quite a few large areas that are there that are.
We wouldn't be able to, like even next to the existing campground, we had the engineer look at both, even removing the rental house that we have there. We asked him if we were to wipe this out and build that out, it's not level ground. I mean, there's issues,
See a lot of extra expense. So
and to
that
even get it
when we
approved.
looked at right behind the little playground, it really wasn't width-wise space enough. It was great. It was really pushing the boundaries.
That's why
Let
we're,
alone the fact that that's where the fair and event parking usually overflows to. So.
ideally, we were also looking at, okay, what's our first use here? Fair. Even though it's such a small time, that is the main use of those grounds. And then, so we looked at inside, our main use circle, let's say, we've got in between buildings. Well, we can't really have campers there if we're going to be using.
And I'm not
those buildings.
I'm talking about more of the ice arena, but the RV park it too, like move
They both,
everything.
yeah.
Kind of move the ice arena there where the RV proposal is, and then move, and then it's shared parking. I mean, obviously during fair that the ice arena won't be in use. I guess for me, it's now that it's, in everybody's face,
Mhm.
I've started doing a lot of research and talking to a lot of different people, like, the other group that wants to do the ice arena or the ice floor and different things, and just saying,
Oh, you mean the one in Ponderay?
yeah, well, and talk to the mayor of Ponderay, and is there room for, you know, one of this to be out there also? Do we start with this outdoor one and then
That's what they're
work to this
Mhm.
grandioso plan? It appears that they don't, you know, have very good communication between the two groups. Well, they don't. And which isn't unusual in these small communities, but to me, it's problematic that that those two groups aren't somewhat working together to try to find a solution that fits everybody's needs.
Agreed.
Instead of just, and I mean, obviously I didn't even know that there was any proposal for Ponderay until,
I didn't know until the day of.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
actually, none of us did.
I was contacted by one of their staff members about
So
it. And
it just shows how many people are working in parallel in this small community that never, well, they have spoken apparently, but I mean, they just never can get together on what the plan should be. One of them's got grandiose ideas. The other one's just like, let's get some ice down. Let's start playing hockey. Right? So
yeah.
that's what I found when I did
And with
started
that,
researching this.
with the proposed, and I found this out after speaking with the Ponderay staff, with having that outdoor, like temporary, is what it is, range.
Yeah.
It's subject to weather, and if it rains or snows, then they'd have to clean the ice in order to make it safe. And I mean, there's issues with that. Like I didn't grow up with an ice rink, so I didn't know. And I'm just saying with it. So I don't know if they're
Plus
planning
50
on
is
covering
probably-
it.
And it's hard to schedule like hockey tournaments when you don't know what the weather's going to be.
Yeah. So I don't know if they plan on putting a cover.
Eventually, that, I mean.
There's
or-
about, what, 40 people in Bonner County that play hockey, men's league hockey. You got
There's a lot.
high school and men's league hockey that they drive down to. Coeur
They
d'Alene
drive to
University.
Coeur d'Alene.
And even
Mhm.
with Coeur d'Alene, Spokane, they did away with them. I don't know if they did away with it, but I know when I was a youth group director, we would try to get time on the ice. And it was like, holy crap.
So when
we
this
get
was
time on the ice.
brought up, back in like 2019, Tom Russell was I think it was Tom and Grady were letting me know that their ice times were at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Still are.
And that's insane. I mean, they love it. They're going to be driving down there and then coming back super late. But
But I mean, I guess this isn't in consideration of 40 people. This is in consideration of what would be cool for the community and.
Right, well, no, and I
Mhm.
think that the key focus from what I heard from
that's what I'm.
Dr. Pierce is to have after-school programs for kids and get them involved. In fact, he was threw me a study from the national group called Fight Crime and Invest in Kids. It's composed of over 5,000 police chiefs, sheriffs, and prosecutors across the country. And it talks about investing in high-quality after-school programs and how it reduces crime and drug use and the whole 9 yards. So that's their primary focus, and they want to. Rob's told me that they want to tailor make the ticket price for the kids so it's more affordable.
Yeah, that was one of their key
And make
things.
the money on the hockey tournaments and the free skating.
Yeah, I met with Rob and I met with the other guys. I've met with both sides of this.
Awesome. So I mean, obviously, it's all dependent on funding.
Right, if they
If
can't
this
raise
even
money,
comes
it
to
won't be
fruition, yeah.
Yeah, if they can't get the 100% funding, it won't be good.
And as far as the Fair Board stands is on why they were like, yeah, go ahead and, let's bring this to the commissioners, was about offering youth programs. That was their big part of it. If this is going to bring something for the youth, let's do it.
Sure.
Because we know we don't need anything for adults, right?
Well, if it benefited the adults that played hockey down Coeur d'Alene, that would be great too. And they're the push. So,
They are the
I mean,
push. It was a
they're the
tongue in
ones that
cheek
are
It's
joke.
phenomenal at these hockey tournaments, weekend hockey tournaments they have.
So I had to do some research into that when they first brought this up, and that's why that location originally proposed next to the fair or the playground wasn't ideal because of the amount of people that they bring in.
900 people on a weekend.
It's a lot. Yeah, so we couldn't put that right there. If we were going to have parking and people driving in and then everybody going in, that's too much of a safety issue right there. So,
Well, it's an opportune time of year to have that business come in for the local hotels and businesses. That will generate more sales tax revenue that we'll get a small piece of. Thank you, state of Idaho.
right.
very small.
I wish it
piece,
was
but
whoever makes it.
Every
gets it,
piece
but,
counts.
It's never the case.
Do you have more questions?
Thanks for the update.
I'm here to answer.
That was very, very complete. Very impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Report.
We have a lot. There were a couple numbers I wanted to read off to you just so that you guys knew. So I gave you the camping one. So Christmas fair, we've been going up as far as income with that. We're jumping up about $1,000 every year in income off of that. And so this year we brought in just over $6,000 just from the Christmas fair. Like our concert grows $17,000. Our demolition derby grows just shy of $18,000. Our bull riding just over $13,000. And then fair separate from that minus expenses, we brought in $24,000 from that. So after all of our expenses, just the fair, not our little events. I mean, we don't make a huge amount off of that. Our moneymaker is the camping. I mean, even event rentals, and I've got that breakdown. I mean, event rentals and camping included, we gross about $107,000 a year. So when you take out that $63,000, just event rentals were about 42. So, and rodeo's been doing really well. I did a recent profit. In 2018, they profited just over $13,000. And we've made some changes since I've been there. And there's this past year and huge part on the rodeo committee as well, but they grossed just shy or profited just shy of $51,000.
And the fair board's been, I mean, I talked to the fair board when I first started overseeing it about raising some of the rates because they're so busy that there's room, and they've been creeping rates up. Try not to make too big of a jump at once, but creeping them up slowly, which is starting to make a big difference because really we've always been of a mind that we want to see the fair pay for itself.
And we're trying to do that, utilize those buildings to their potential, try to make a profit.
I'm just
off of them.
surprised at how they're just booked.
I wish I had a bigger building, and I wish we had other heated buildings because we'd be able to rent them. And not just, I mean, just for not only to make a profit, but to be able to give somebody places to go. There's all these groups that call me, oh, we've got a wedding coming up. And I'm like, oh my God, we're booked. Like booked. They give me 4 or 5 dates and I can get you 2 years from now, but it's a good problem to have, but I wish I had a bigger building. So this is I've got a few little things that I'll send to you guys notes wise. If obviously I'll keep giving you guys updates, but if there's something else you want, let me know. I'll send you all those maps. And then I'll schedule this again for next year.
Sounds good. Any other questions for Darcy? There you go.
Hey, buddy.
And you have a question for Darcy?
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to open it up to general questions and then.
Not really. This is just an update.
Well, there's the grant application stuff, there's the.
Dan, could you come up to the?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you need to identify yourself for the record.
Dan Rose for the record. I didn't know a lot of the stuff that was going to be discussed here, but I did come prepared for information relative to the lease agreement. For the general stuff prior to, other than the lease agreement, it was stated the parking funds are up $14,000, but Darcy's radio ads throughout the spring was saying that they were not, and they were pleading for people to donate money for the kids' scholarships. So I'm kind of wondering what the difference is between the parking funds are up and the radio ads saying that they weren't.
The radio ad was not for the fair. That was for grad night.
Yeah, that was for when the high school grads.
So none of the parking stuff went to the grad night?
No.
Okay.
No, the way it
No.
works is they groups from like high school groups, and I can't remember all the names of the groups. They come in and they volunteer to work the parking.
I mean,
So they
it's
get 50%
sports.
of the money raised, the groups do, and then the other 50% goes to scholarship.
And the only reason why I did the grad night is I had a graduate. And so I asked if I could do a radio ad. So
I thought that might be the case. So the next question I had was I'd done a document request for a discussion that Darcy and I have had several months ago relative to a stage 2 of the grant And I have not received that yet, and it's been 2 months now.
It's been in my office waiting for you.
Yeah, it's,
Emailed you.
okay, it's been 2 months. So now it seems
Still
that
there.
the phase and the stage 2 seem to be, how do we say, interjection of terms. And now they're going to be restaged, and I'm assuming that that's restaging the $225,000 that was approved in the 2019-2020 application, grant application. And then
That
there's,
was done.
that was done.
That's done.
so the 225,000 in repairs is all been used and done?
Yes.
Okay,
That's for the paving.
That grant has been closed. I
Yeah.
think.
Uh-huh.
okay,
Yeah,
so,
we did the final closure on it.
okay, so I had some, how do you say, difficulty understanding what was explained then
I'll give you
about
my
phase 1 being the paving, phase 2 being the additional sites in the road, and now that phase 2 is now going to become phase 2, 3, and 4. And so to me, that sounded like it was that same grant application from 2019, 2020, unless additional sites have already been put in with that 2019, 2020 grant. Is it, so have additional sites been put in?
Nope.
No,
No.
one of the things she said in her presentation was that they were going to look at, the IDPR was looking now at the paving, which was phase 1, to be a standalone, and then they're going to reapply for phase 2, 3, and 4, which now become phase 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so the paving that was done in phase 1 under the 2019, 2020 grant was $225,000, and it's all done and used.
It was actually technically $235,000 with
Okay.
our $10,000 match, and it was all done and used. Final reports were sent to them in 2020. And at the bottom, I believe Jesse gave you a copy of this guy. This bottom portion discusses the phases 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So,
However, this was typed up prior to me talking to Tiffany.
okay, so phase 1, I assume, is the 2019, 2020 grant, and phase 2 would be this year's grant,
Yes,
which would be 2, 3, and 4.
yes.
Okay, that was, how do we say, not clear?
Yeah, but it'll
Oh,
now be
yeah.
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, because I wrote this prior to talking to Tiffany. I didn't-
Okay, so I'm clear with that now. I have comment on the ice rink MOU lease agreement. I had several questions drafted here, and some of them have been answered to some extent in the timeline that was provided. And I wish that we had a copy of the packet at the beginning of the meeting too, but I have to look that over a little bit because it's just kind of recent stuff that was thrown to
We
me.
basically went
This is a
through
workshop.
everything that's
I
in the
went through the
packet.
whole
We're
thing.
almost word for word, damn near.
I'm not hiding
We're still going to
anything.
do an informational meeting
I didn't,
on the ice rink.
yeah, I didn't see any numbers listed when she was talking about incomes and stuff like that. I didn't hear any numbers being
Yeah,
discussed.
this was
happening.
just purely an update for
This is
the
a fair board.
for the
Fair.
Right, and I didn't know if you had numbers you were looking at in your packet. I didn't hear any discussed, so I figured I was at a loss in this
Again, this is
communication.
a yearly update that the fair
Okay.
gives.
All right, I'm just saying from my perspective, I'm trying to understand everything that's going on. So is this the time that we would comment on the lease agreement?
I don't know if it'd be helpful. We're gonna have, like I said, we're still planning on having an informational meeting. I'm just waiting for Bill to get the contract cleaned up, the amendment cleaned up the contract. We can also bring that forth as well, so you'll all have a copy of that.
Okay,
That'll be an updated agreement or amendment to the agreement to update it. That way, at least you'll be able to, and what we'll do is we'll put it out there in advance so that you'll have a chance to read through it first before we do the informational meeting. Just have a sense of fairness.
okay. And I'm just kind of wondering then, would there be any movement on the MOU and the lease agreement, furthering it down the lines before any of that next meeting happens? Because it looks like some
No,
of
we've got it.
some of it's already been done, but it also looks like some of it hasn't been done properly. And
Right,
therefore,
there's certainly some mistakes in that original MOU that we need to fix.
well, there's more than
Agreement.
mistakes in the MOU. There's certain mistakes in noticing and stuff like that.
Noticing? It was a
But-
public
but-
meeting.
yeah,
It was
a public
noticed.
meeting.
Okay, and there's also issues with authority of who's doing the arrangements here as well, which is,
How so?
um,
Our attorney went through state statute and made sure it was clear.
yeah, and I do have comment on that, and it's, so that's my point. If this is the time to make that comment, I will. If it's not, I'll hold it, but I don't want necessarily to be,
I think that'd be better discussed during the informational meeting that we're gonna plan. But you can look at 31807 and 31806.
And you can look at 31836 and 31822.
But just for the record, just so that we know, there was a workshop held regarding this with myself, and I explained that in here, and you guys, and the group, for the ice arena. Then that was agendized, that was noticed properly, as well as for when it was on the Board of County Commissioners business meeting. It was noticed and agendized properly.
Yep, following the rules.
I have a question.
I just want to reserve the right. She said it was noticed properly. Under 74-204, you're in violation.
Thank you.
Do us.
Yeah. Somebody else, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So Kristen Dodd for the record. I actually have a lot of questions, but again, I'm not sure if this
Nice
is.
to finally meet you, Chris.
Hi. So, well, I don't know if I should ask all my questions. I have a lot of questions about, well, number one, when we have that informational meeting, will that be a done deal at that point? Or will there still be further discussion about?
Well, right now it's a done deal. We approve the MOU. We have to amend the MOU, and that's not a done deal.
So is there going to be opportunity to amend it further than what you've already discussed with
Yeah,
the
we- if
5%?
someone brings up some
Always.
amendments,
Absolutely.
work, yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
the information.
Yeah, that
Would
would
be like, if there's
Yeah.
something.
So a
brought
lot
up,
of my questions are sort of ideas that could be potentially
You
tossed
know, what'd be
around.
great is, why don't you write them up
Send
and
that
email
to
them to me,
I will.
so I can throw them in front of our attorney.
I will do that today.
Okay, cool.
And then another question I had, you had mentioned that it was estimated that 5% would bring in between 50 and 80K,
Yeah.
not including rentals. Do you have any kind of estimate on what the rentals would bring in?
I don't know how many people we turn away, but I know we turn away a lot of people that want to use fairgrounds facilities. So it'd be a guess.
So right now, if I rent the main exhibit building, it's $600 a day. And that's using the amenities that are there, the building, the heat, the bathrooms. So it depends on what's there, what we're able to rent it at. Would depend on.
Yeah, because when they're not making ice, it's just a concrete floor.
So I would guess that maybe at the informational meeting, we'll do the best we can to come up with
Try to
There'd
go-
be a fee
Estimates,
schedule would have to be
yes.
created. Yeah.
estimates of income. I think for me, that's important because it's like throwing a dartboard at the wall. I mean, I want
Dart at
to,
the dartboard.
yeah, I just kind of want to,
You can throw a dartboard at a wall, but
Either one would be useless.
that's kind of what I'm saying is that it'd be a nice idea to have at least the best guess.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
all of this stuff is estimates. It's no different whether it's a building budget or our.
I get it.
budget,
I mean, we
it's
can-
best guess.
We can run
Yeah.
comparisons like that. You were talking about the one in McCall. You
Yeah,
can maybe
just
try to
the
compare
group
to.
that The nonprofit group actually has numbers from McCall, Whitefish, some of these other places, what they've been doing, so.
That's cool. I know I had one other question I was going to ask. About so I'm hearing rumblings that the city of Sandpoint had dedicated money
No.
to
No.
this. That's a false,
No,
What
we
happened
right?
was during the business meeting, the mayor was here.
He
and
got really excited.
You got all excited about it. Yeah, they weren't even involved in this at all, from not even a little
No.
bit. And so they were trying to get that 1% tax passed. And I think what he did is, I think he said, yeah, we'll put some of that money towards it, hoping that would.
That's
help
what I
pass the
figured.
tax. But when the city manager found out that he said that, she was not too happy because the money on that 1% tax could not legally be used. to give-
Dedicated
Yeah, it's
already.
dedicated money. so
Right.
he
And it
was
didn't
talking out of-
pass, but
He was
I mean-
talking out of school. And it
Okay.
didn't pass.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll
trying
put
to
the
help,
rest
I
of this
guess.
in an
Send
email.
it to Dan.
Yeah, I know there's all kinds of hubbub about this. Like, we were working with the city of Sandpoint. It's like, no, if you know anything about us and the city of Sandpoint, we don't really have a friendly relationship.
Oh, speak for yourself.
Well,
you know,
I work with
think
Parks and
I
Rec.
have a-
That's all
Well, we
I
do.
think I have a pretty good
We have
relationship.
a professional relationship with them.
I get it. All right. Well, thank you.
We have a difference of political opinion.
sometimes.
But that doesn't shouldn't matter.
Good morning, Sheriff Darrell Wheeler for the record. I guess I was misunderstood the purpose of this. For some reason, I thought the Fair Board was making the presentation
Yeah, no,
They
we do
would do
yearly
that.
updates from,
and I know
This
that
is the most
I think last
attendance.
week or maybe this Thursday, you said that there was going to be opportunity for public comment. And I didn't see any, but I had prepared kind of a Bonner County Justice Center overview of the property and all that I wanted to read and provide all of you if I can do that. And I
Yeah,
think
if
it
you
would be.
want, but Daryl, it might be more helpful to do it during the informational meeting, but if you want to do it now, go for it.
Yeah, and I think it would be also helpful to have a copy, to have this information as you're having that that next meeting, that next public meeting. Sure. So here, I'll just go and I'll give you a copy. Done. So this is an overview. The M&E and Roma Miller sold that 43 acres to the Bonner County on February 3rd of 1961, and that property became the Bonner County Fairgrounds. In 1990, Darrell and Ella Brown sold 20 acres to Bonner County for the development of justice services. This is where the sheriff's office complex is located. The Browns' home was converted into the Bonner County Sheriff's Detention Facility right soon afterwards. In October of 1998, the new Bonner County 124-bed jail opened. Immediately following, the new sheriff's office was built. So in June 2004, the County Board of Commissioners took over the Juvenile Detention Center and gave oversight to misdemeanor probation. And next, the temporary 911 dispatch center was constructed. Afterwards, the Juvenile Detention Center was remodeled and the misdemeanor probation office moved in and ran their operation to the sheriff's complex. And then in 2008, the Idaho Army National Guard made plans to build a readiness center. Bonner County temporarily deeded the 3.99 acres to the military division of the state of Idaho. A temporary portable building was placed on the property, which the sheriff's office used for training purposes. In my fourth month of taking office in April 21, 2209, the National Institute of Corrections conducted a jail review and local system assessment. And in that report, Warren Cook, the assessor, recommended the jail expansion because the jail's designers did not provide sufficient space for storage, kitchen operations, medical facilities, program space, inmate workers, work release, and weekender housing, and lastly, non-dormitory housing to support the appropriate classification program. And it was also recommended that the jail needs to undergo expansion plans to provide for inmate housing and services for the upcoming 15 or 20 years. Based upon planning efforts, we needed at least an additional 109 beds. And that assessment was done in 2009. So it's 13 years ago. August 2013, the Readiness Center was defunded by the state and the state of Idaho forced to close the facility. And on June 30th, 2014, the property was quick deeded back to Bonner County, which at this time, the sheriff's office has been using that property for storage and parking. And on April 23rd, 2012 is when the new $4.6 million 27-bed Juvenile Detention Center was open, which also housed misdemeanor probation. This was located on the original 20-acre property purchased in 1990. And then in May 27th, 2014, Bonner County Commissioners Kerry Kelly, Mike Nielsen, Glenn Bailey passed a resolution granting the Bonner County Fair Board use of the portion of the Justice Center property adjacent to the fairgrounds for parking purposes only until further notice. And then May 17, 2008, I met with Commissioner McDonald, Public Works Director Teddy Lumpton, Undersheriff Rural Lakewood County City Attorney Scott Bauer, and representatives from Integris Architecture to discuss a jail feasibility study. And it was later agendized and approved by you, the board, to spend $25,000 for the jail assessment. And then February 9th, 2019, I had requested a jail workshop, which was held with the three current county commissioners, Public Works Director Teddy Lupton, Facilities Lead Operator Rick Dyer, Undersheriff Scott Roar Lakewald, and me. And I detailed the deficiencies in the jail, and discussion arose about building a new jail and how to pay for it. And at that time, Commissioner McDonald stated realistically we should do it as a bond, 30-year. And he went on a few minutes later, stated, if you start adding property cost infrastructure, we already own that property. And at least and then seconds later, at least we have peed on all the corners and we know it's ours. Currently, the commissioners that developed a case of amnesia and don't seem to recall our conversation of that workshop. And on February 25th, almost done 2019, Intrigus provided the county with a report stating that the estimated cost to remodel the jail and add only 80 beds would exceed $11 million and still not meet our needs. And October 26, 2001, all county commissioners approved an MOU for a 99 lease of the 3.99 acres of the Justice Center property to Sandpoint Community Center Corporation without proper noticing or consulting the parties that are most affected, i.e. Lewis Marshals, the judges, and or me. The SCCC, by the way, incorporated on February 5th, 2020. Former County Commissioner Mike Nielsen, after that decision, said this complex was designed and eventually house all criminal justice agencies in one location for efficiency. When the commissioners, we developed the Juvenile Detention Center where it was behind the jail. As we look at the site and the attachment, you can see that there is very little room for expansion to house the prosecutor, court, public defender, et cetera. By giving away this land, it greatly restricts the future development of the justice complex and ties the hands of all future Board of County Commissioners. The decision should be revisited and rescinded immediately. And lastly, Prosecutor Lewis Marshall said after that action, this parcel is not located on what people consider to be fairgrounds property. It is located directly behind the sheriff's office. Neither Sheriff Wheeler nor myself were consulted in this in any way, and we found out by reading the paper. And relevance to the court system is I've advocated for a careful consideration of future use of the property, potentially as a justice center, where sheriff's office expansion to allow prisoners to be able to move back and forward from the jail to the courthouse, and the prosecutor's office and public defender's office would be in the new facility with the courthouse. That appears now to be off the table. The Bonner County Fair Board has always been in control of the 43.3 acres of property that was purchased in 1961. However, the Bonner County Fair Board has never had legal authority over the 20 acres purchased by the Bonner County in 1990 and lacks original jurisdiction over that property. Bonner County Fair Board should have never played a role in squandering the Bonner County Justice Center property.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else wish to speak?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Dan Rose for the record. Yeah, Sheriff brought up some items here that I wanted to comment on as well. As a layman in the law field here, I'm looking at Idaho Code 31836, which I asked you to look at. It says, except as otherwise provided by law. If you go back to 31822, that is preceding 836, both sequentially and in context, it says prohibits any lease of fairgrounds to any entity other than the state of Idaho or the Department of Agriculture. So when you look at 31836, which is what you're basing this lease on, it seems that the clause at the very beginning of that code, except as otherwise provided by law, which is 31822, 31822 now takes precedence and is superior to 31836 as in the clause, except as
Yeah, this
otherwise
sounds like
provided by law.
discussion You need to have with our attorney because
Yeah, I know, but I'm putting this on the public record if I could, Mr. Chairman.
I can tell you that one of the things we had him look at was make sure that, first of all, can we do this legally, check state statute? He claimed that he did. It meets all the.
He may have, and this is
I don't
public.
think it's a question of man. It was, he had to.
Okay, so
They do everything.
And we wouldn't have moved forward without legal counsel.
yeah, so you consult with legal, but we don't have any way of putting public record to conflict without suing you. And I've told you this many times. You guys operate under the condition, if you don't like what we want, sue us. And then
That's not true.
there's no public,
I've never heard that.
you didn't say it. I said it.
And we did have public comment.
I said it that seems to be your, how do we say, modus of operandi.
Your impression of what you.
Correct. So in that sense, for public record to comment about the law, I can't do it when you guys are doing it in executive session. So this is the only time I have to do it, unless I sue you.
This wasn't done in
No.
executive session.
So that's great.
When
Actually,
you consult with your lawyer, that's executive session.
we can quench this discussion by saying, that's great information and we'll check into it. We'll have our attorney look at that because
Yeah, give us that.
that has credence. We should be looking into it.
Right.
If
Again,
it's
correct.
it's not
Good
against
information.
the rules to make a mistake. And
Okay.
Lawyers make mistakes, we make mistakes.
And we've been down this road before and you've admitted at some other point, I didn't think of that. And again, it's discussion. If we don't have discussion, then we can't have a full understanding of where everybody wants to
I
go.
agree.
Secondly, Mr. Chairman, you commented in the reader that there was an alternative location for the future criminal justice facility complex, but you never did state where that was, and that would be very important to know.
Get it to you. I know.
Well,
I-
I know, but the article said that there is another place, but it's not identified. So we don't know. The discussion is
Let me ask you
incomplete.
a question. If you had a question of something I said, what would the normal person do? Would they contact me? Because I've always been good at sharing information with you. All you have to do is contact me. I can send you the drawing. I've gone over with Lewis Marshall. He thought it was a great idea. I went over it with Mike Nielsen. He thought it was a great idea.
Okay, but we don't know. It's part of the discussion.
Then send me an email or call me and
Well,
ask me.
the
And I can
re-
give it to you.
You gave the comment to the reader. I was expecting to see the reader print that additional
I
location.
don't control the reader.
Okay, all right.
If they
So
would have asked for a map, I would have given them the map.
So the conversation is incomplete. And again, the sheriff commented to it as well, and I do agree. I don't believe the fairgrounds director or the fair board secretary or the fairground board has the legal authority to be negotiating a contract that is not their property.
They didn't negotiate a contract. They-
Well, according to the timeline,
Drafted-
according to the timeline, it
drafted
did.
an MOU based on the negotiations. Since she was the department we asked to draft the MOU, she drafted an MOU that she gave to Scott based on the negotiations that Scott then turned around and refined to make sure and made sure that it met legal muster.
Yeah, the timeline,
It's a semantical argument you're making.
well, the timeline I'm looking at appears that
It
this,
was our attorney that directed her to write it.
okay, so it doesn't matter who wrote it. If she doesn't have under statute, the fairground has care and
There's
custody.
no authority claimed here by the fair board, by the fair director.
Okay, so then it should have been you that actually did the arrangements and not Darcy, because she doesn't have the authority to do so.
Darcy didn't do it. I was involved in it.
Okay.
Scott was involved in it.
Okay, so,
CCC was involved in it.
Okay.
She was the one that our attorney said, Darcy, I would like you to draft this and then I will clean it up from there. Which is the way it happens with everything that goes on in this county.
okay, and so in all this discussion, you have fair board making vote on an MOU.
No, they made a vote to recommend to us that we move forward with an MOU.
Okay, so the fair board made a decision,
In
right?
capacity, they're an advisory board to us only.
And the fair board made a decision, and the fair board does not have on their website any of,
Made a decision for recommendation.
they don't have on their website the minutes and the agendas
I
for those
don't.
meetings.
You can call, and in fact, you've submitted a
It's-
records request.
That is a violation of
To you.
code. That's a violation of
Gave them to
code.
you.
74204, look it up. So therefore, we don't have information about what the fair board is doing because they're not publishing in a place that they are supposed to, just like the county is supposed to in certain places, and they're not doing it. And the county, because it falls under the county, it falls under the advisory board to the commissioners, then it needs to be on the commissioner's webpage, and it's not there either. So it's nowhere, and it's a violation of transparency under
Actually, we can
Title 74.
fix that.
You can fix it, but the problem is this has gone down the track and it was not exposed and it was done in quote, a secretive fashion until the very end.
Done in a secret fashion.
If
First
we
of all,
don't-
The fair board meetings are open to the public. And all they are in that capacity. So the fair board has.
And we don't know what the agenda is for that fair board meeting because it's not published.
Fair board has two functions. One is they manage the functions of the fairgrounds with the money that's made by the fairgrounds. The county only puts in payroll. That's it. That's all we pay. The second function is to advise us, because it's county property, as to what their desires are. And that's all that was. They gave us an advisory vote, which was unanimous, that yes, we should move forward with considering this.
Again, for the public consumption,
Everything else was on the record in public meetings.
well, for the public consumption, this stuff was not on the record. It's never been on the record. In
It's
fact,
absolutely been on the record.
there's no
We
minutes.
had an initial presentation.
There's no minutes.
Open public meeting that was
There's no-
advertised and advertised. Then we had it in our business meeting, agendized and advertised.
there's no minutes for the agenda or the minutes of the Fair Board for the public to look at.
All it is
It's not on, it's not on either
All
fairground
this is
website.
about, Dan, we can
or the
go around
county
this all
website.
day long, and I'm gonna cut you off in a minute because you're making an argument that is really moot.
Okay,
It's just like the Solid Waste Advisory Board or the groomers or any of
It's
these
actually
other.
a state board.
Huh?
The Fair Board's actually a state.
It is a
board.
state
So
board.
Fair Board is a state board.
It's actually not directly under us.
uh,
It's required by the state.
Because they have fiduciary function for the fairgrounds themselves.
okay, and the director is directly under you, and the secretary of the Fair Board is
Director is a
directly
county
under.
employee,
Okay, all right.
and all the rest of the employees are county employees.
And so I sent you all an email on 1/2/20.
You want to read up on the Fair Board, because that was one of the things that our attorney brought up, was the anonymity they have with being a Fair Board under the state. Anonymity.
I sent to you a resolution on 1/2/2022. I just wanted for the record to insert it in the record for this meeting.
What's that?
Resolution from the.
Oh, yeah.
A resolution from the Central Committee that opposes the rink and asks you to rescind that decision. Thank you.
Yeah, the problem with it, well, we won't go into it now. We'll I'll bring this up during the informational meeting, but this is really poorly written down.
Just a follow-up question, real quick, Kristen Dodd again. I know I asked before if there was going to be opportunity to further amend the lease agreement. Is there still a potential or a way to rescind it?
Yeah, we have that in there. We have a clause in there to be able to rescind it as well.
Okay, I may not have understood that portion of it, but
Do you want a copy of it?
I have a copy.
Oh, okay.
I do.
Yeah, get us any recommendations you have, get them to us.
I will.
Sooner than better, than later, because we're trying to get this thing turned around.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other question or comment? Seeing none, we will go ahead and adjourn this workshop at 11:37.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr.
Somewhere
Darcy.
new, Don't I? Jeez, I'm not gonna get my sandwich.
Eat it in the car.